Hey guys, welcome to episode 6 of the CMP E46 Drift Build. Today we're putting in coilovers, so stay tuned. Alright, well these are the coilovers we've decided to put in our drift car. What we've got here are the BC Racing BR series. Now, they're not really anything too fancy, just a conventional coilover shock, but what makes these different to the average BCs for an E46 is that we've spec'd for M3 top mounts. So it's nothing too dramatic. All it does is it off-centers the top of the strut further towards the rear of the car than the standard mounts. What that does is it dials in a little bit extra caster. What caster does is it changes the camber gain through steering angle, and it also provides a little bit of front jacking at high angle, putting a little more weight on the rear wheels to help you get grip while sliding. In the back end, we've actually opted for the true coilover. This is something I've had my eye on for a while. I'm very curious to see how they run. The major difference here is we're eliminating a piece of rubber that would normally be at the top of the strut, so it's a bit more stiff between the wheel and the chassis, and the spring does its job better. So we're going to put the car in the air, pull the wheels off and start putting these in. Alright, we're going to start with the back end of this car, and that's simply because we haven't put it back together yet. So there's no dampener in there, and the spring is just sitting there, so I can just reach in and pull that out. Other than that, all I need to really do is just wind the top nuts off the shock, stick it up through the tower, and then someone's going to have to put the two nuts on the tower for me. So you're up, cameraman. Alright, well that's the back end in. We didn't play around with the ride height or anything just yet because there's almost no point with half the car still off. So moving to the front, I've already got the wheel off. What I need to do now is disconnect the sway bar, the shear bolt between the upright and the dampener, and then it's just these three top nuts before I can pull it out. So I'm going to get on the other side, pull the other wheel off, put it a little higher, and then rip them out. When you get to this stage, you do need to disconnect the sway bar. The sway bar is what links the left and right corner to prevent roll. The other effect is when you're trying to drop the upright lower, because the other one's still up, it'll try to keep this one up too. So disconnecting that link, which we are replacing anyway, just allows this to drop that extra bit lower, which should help us pull the spring and dampener out and clear the guards quite easily. So I'll zap the other end off and hopefully get this out in a sec. One thing to keep in mind when installing coilovers into an E46 is the front strut towers. Much like the rear subframe mounts and a lot of other things in the back end, they too are prone to cracking, tearing, or as the result of fatigue. So the solution there is actually a BMW product. So these are front strut tower reinforcement plates. It's just a piece of pressed metal steel that goes between the top of the coilover and the underside of the tower. and much like a washer, it just distributes the stress. This will be acting on that over a larger area, reducing the stress in the tower and therefore preventing cracking, fatigue, and so on. So simple install, simply slip it over the top of the coilover before you shove it in. So I'm going to chuck them in now. Alright, well that's the end of our coilover install. We've got the fronts in, backs in. We didn't mess around with the wheel alignment, ride height, and to be honest, I'll be swapping out the rear bolts for something stronger with a washer so it can't pop off. However, there's no point doing that now because we still got to put a lot of the car back together and the ride height's going to change. So we're going to call it a day at that. In the next episode, we're going to be assembling our front strut braces for this car. So stay tuned and we'll see you next time.
Ooh, the strain, no, the strain face. You probably don't want me around right now.